guys, welcome. I'm Michelle. I'm the founder of Holisticism, and today I'm going to talk all about the Akashic Records and what they are and how to open them and all that good stuff. So welcome. We're just gonna get started here. Okay, great, people are coming in. This is so fun. I never do IG Lives, so I'm trying to get better at them. So thanks for working with me on this. And today I'm going to talk all about the Akashic Records. Hey from New Jersey. What's up? I'm here in LA. So we're talking all about the Akashic Records. Oh, first time here. Hi, nice to see you. Basically my first time. And I wanted to talk about the Akashic Records because we wrote a blog post about the Akashic Records this week. And holy moly, so many people have been asking us about, we've gotten so many questions come into our email, to our DM, so I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into them because they're really, really cool, and they're a really interesting tool that you can use in your own practice. So welcome. I'm excited that you're here, and oh, I'm so glad that you enjoyed the post and the PDF. So, yeah. We actually have, if you go to the link in our bio, you'll be able to see the PDF that we created that has the opening prayer and about, I think it's 44 questions, sample questions to ask the Akashic Records. I'm getting way ahead of myself because first we just need to talk about what the Akashic Records are. So I want to tell you a story. Hi, I'm like the most cynical, skeptical person ever. Sorry, it's true. I have a Mercury Aquarius, and although I'm a triple water, so I'm a Pisces Sun, Cancer Rising, Scorpio Moon, who loves mysticism and holistic wellness and all that good stuff, I tend to give things the side eye, especially things that sound too good to be true. And so I started Holisticism to kind of talk about that and to try wellness trends out for myself, but also sort of spiritual ideas and dig into them and reconcile them with my analytical mind, because I feel like there are so many people out there who feel the same way, who are super intelligent and intellectual and love to use qualitative data, but also have some sort of spirituality to them where they try a method or a technique or a modality that they can't really explain why it works, but they just know that it works. So that's kind of a little bit about me. So I discovered the Akashic Records about 2 years ago. I've been hearing about them for a while, and someone just said Mercury and Virgo here. I feel, yeah, it must be logical. Indeed, that resonates deeply. I love science and data, and I often read medical publications because I just really enjoy learning about that shit. So anyways, that's my really embarrassing, very nerdy stuff. But I discovered the Akashic Records, or I walked into learning about the Akashic Records about 2 years ago. What kept happening, although I've been in the wellness space for over a decade, and I'm pretty well versed in things like astrology, intuition, past life, regression, all that good stuff, I'd never really heard about the Akashic Records. And all of a sudden, about 3 or 4 times in a span of maybe 2 weeks, I kept hearing the Akashic Records come up. First, I saw it on Conscious City Guide as an event or something, and there was literally no description. So I was like, "What is this?" And then it got brought up in conversation with total strangers in completely different scenarios. And I was like, "Okay, I gotta do a deeper dive on this." So I started Googling around, and everything that I read was, honestly, it was like reading cults.com. It didn't make any sense to me. So I really like kind of stopped reading. I would get about halfway down on a page and I'd be like, I don't understand this. This isn't in plain English, and this doesn't feel real. This feels like, oh, my dog Bonnie just made it into the video. The way that the Akashic Records were being described just seemed so alternative and so unrealistic that Bonnie, that I couldn't take them seriously. And eventually I would honestly try to like Google around again, find more resources, but I never found anything that really resonated with me. And then I met Helen Vonderheid. Helen is a certified Akashic Records reader. And something that really struck me about her is that she's totally normal. She was a producer in film and television. She's like my age. She's so cool, so smart, and is like one of the best Akashic Records readers on planet Earth. She's super highly qualified. And talking to her about the records, I was able to ask a lot of questions and to get a lot more clarity about how they work and why they work the way that they do. And so I asked Helen to do a workshop with Holisticism before I'd ever worked with the records, before I'd ever opened my own records, because so many people seemed to be interested in them. So about 1.5 years ago, we did a workshop with Helen, and that was the first time I opened my records, and it was amazing. And after that, I actually trained with Helen and I got certified as an Akashic Records reader. I'm totally outing myself right now, which is something I don't tell people because it's a really hard concept to understand. And so I got worried that people would be really judgmental or think I was crazy for using this tool and having it in my back pocket. But really, it's been one of the most helpful things for me as I've navigated running a business and honestly just being a human on the planet. So, hey! Thanks everyone who's joining in. So, a little bit more, let's like just get into what the Akashic Records are. So, the Akashic Records they're basically like don't exist in this dimension. I know. Annoying that I just said that, right? I'm rolling my eyes at myself. And I have my notes here because it helps me when I have a very clear vision for how I want to describe them, but I have a very bad short-term memory. Someone just said, I totally understand the worry of people's thoughts around you. Totally, right? It's hard enough to be taken seriously as a woman on the planet, right? And then you tell people that you're into this sort of stuff and they'll roll their eyes at you or write you off. When in reality, we can be many things, right? We're not we aren't a duality. We're not just an intellectual or just a mystic. We can be both things. There's no such thing as binary anymore. Let's be real. It's 2019. You can be all the things. You can be spiritual and you can love science. You can be a CEO and you can also be, a seeker. You can be all the things. So if you're struggling with that, I really hear you and understand. And I hope that maybe this inspires you to come out of your own spiritual closet. Okay, so let's go back to the Akashic Records because that's really why we're here. So the Akashic Records exist basically on another dimension. They're another plane. We're in the 3rd dimension. The Akashic Records are like 4th dimension. And they're actually a higher plane called the Akasha. And I like to think of the Akasha as a really sensitive energy field. So everything that will be, can be, and has been is stored in the Akasha as an imprint. That includes things like thoughts and ideas and actions. And this was a really hard concept for me to understand because basically the Akashic Records are an imprint of every possible opportunity or potential opportunity. And when we open them, that means that we can see potential opportunities and potential outcomes. And we can feel into the likelihood of what's going to happen. If that just went over your head, you're not alone. I was like, wait, what? So something that really helped me understand the Akashic Records more was relating it to science. And in quantum mechanics, there's this thing called the many worlds interpretation. So quantum mechanics is it's like what Einstein does, right? It's like string theory. So in the many worlds interpretation, there are infinite universes that exist next to each other constantly. And every action and reaction that we have basically drops us into a different universe. So if I choose to pick up my glasses in this universe, there's another almost identical universe beside us in which I do not do that. And the outcomes after that are really different. So when I pick up my glasses in this universe, we're all living in it right now, and everything has changed for us. Our lives are going to continue on from this action. In another alternative universe, that didn't happen, and our lives might be completely different, or they might just be slightly different. And that's basically what many worlds interpretation is, right? There's infinite universes that are almost identical, that are right next to each other. And of course, in maybe one universe, I pick up my glasses and they fly up to the ceiling. But the likelihood or probability of that happening is very, very low. There are less universes or less opportunities for that to really happen. So when we open the Akashic Records, it's a little bit like that. What we're doing is we're opening up to the potential opportunities that are going to happen based on the trajectory that we're on. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions? It's really complicated, so if it doesn't make sense, just feel into it for a second. So when we open up the Akashic Records, one thing that we have to remember is that time doesn't really exist. For us as humans, we need time in order to we need the concept of time in order to not lose our minds, right? But time is actually a flat circle. So things that have happened in the past are simultaneously happening with things that are happening in the future, simultaneously happening with right now. So the Akashic Records basically takes that theory and scrunches it all together and is everything's happening at the same time. All potential opportunities are popping up. And when you open the records, you can see into the past, you can see into the future, kind of, if you want to call it the future, and you can gain greater clarity on what's happening right now. Okay, that's why we can open the Akashic Records and we can ask about past lives, because time is a flat circle, so we have access to things that have happened in the past as if they are things that are happening right now. I know. My mind is blown. Okay, so the next thing that you need to know about the Akashic Records is that because we're human and we're really limited in our knowledge and understanding, it's like the mind of God. Someone just said, yeah, that's a really good way to say it. It's all things, right? And I'll go into this later, but we have free will within opening the records, and that's actually one of the coolest things about it. So really quick, I was just saying that because we're human beings, we have a very limited perception of what we can understand and what we can grasp. Just like we need time as a sort of idea to rest our hats on in order to exist in the world. If we didn't have time, we would lose it, right? Or the idea of time. We kind of can't, we almost don't even speak the same language as the Akashic Records. So they're so highly elevated above us that we almost need translators to understand what they're telling us. And our translators are our masters, teachers, and loved ones. Those are called the MTLOs. So masters, teachers, and loved ones, if that resonates with you, awesome. If you'd rather call it your spiritual team, you can totally do that. Sometimes the idea of masters, teachers, and loved ones doesn't really resonate with me. So I think of it as my highest self. And essentially these are just higher level beings, so more omniscient beings, right? Oh, I'm so glad that you guys can't wait to try this. Yeah, and we're going to talk about how you can open your records in just a second. So these masters, teachers, and loved ones, or highest self, or whatever you want to call it, are essentially the translators. So they go to the Akashic Records, they take the question that you've asked, they get the information that you need, and then they translate it back to you in a way that you can understand. And the Akashic Records always work for your highest good as well. So is that really confusing? Or does that kind of make sense? So you open the records, you ask your masters, teachers, and loved ones for the answer to your questions. The masters, teachers, and loved ones come back to you and they give you the answers. Okay, so this leads directly into a really important thing, which is how do we open the records? And how do we begin to interact with the records? So to open the records, they didn't used to be something that we as normal lay people could open. They used to be something that only mystics or, people who meditated on a bluff for 30 years could do. And only in this century have we really been, the records, oh yeah, I'll definitely save this and I'll put it on our IG. So, Kate, I hear you, girl. We got your back, don't worry. Okay, so it was only in this century that normal people like us were really given access or the keys to the Akashic Records. And the best way that I know how to access the Akashic Records is through the Pathway Process Prayer by Linda Howe. Linda Howe is an author who's written a ton of books on the Akashic Records. If you type her name into Amazon, she has like 3 or 4 books, and get the top rated one. It's like Opening the Akashic Records 101. It's awesome. And it describes the Akashic Records in a little bit of a different way. It's kind of floofy. But what's the most important thing is that the Pathway Prayer is in that book. It's also, the Pathway Prayer is also in the PDF that we made. That's at the link in our bio. You can get it for free. Just go to Holisticism's profile, click the link, and you'll be able to download it. It's really easy to find. So what we do is we open the Akashic Records using the Pathway Prayer. How is the Akashic Records different than meditation, or how does it feel different? It feels extremely different in my experience. I'm a longtime meditator, and the first time I opened the Akashic Records, I was like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know. Like, I've never experienced this before, and I've gone on like Vipassanas and done lots of shit. It feels really different, and it feels like the information that's coming to you isn't exactly yours, isn't just like your highest self tapping in. It's something beyond you. So you'll say the Pathway Prayer. There are some rules when you say it. You have to say it out loud, then you have to say it silently, and you can only open your own records. You can ask other people permission to open their records. So let's say you wanted to read your significant other's records. You would ask for their permission, and then you would use their name in the Pathway Prayer to open their records. And here's the thing. Everything has an Akashic record. I have an Akashic record. You have an Akashic record. My house has an Akashic record. Your business has an Akashic record. Your dog has an Akashic record. If it's a living thing or a thing that has energy, so like a house or a book, whatever, you can open the records for it. Sometimes they're a little bit harder to read, but in my experience, you can still ask questions and get answers. And so that leads us into the next thing. Once you have your Akashic Records open, you've said the Pathway Prayer, you can start to ask the records questions. And the best way to do this or interact with them is to ask questions that do not have a yes or no answer as a response. So you're going to want to ask questions that start with why, what, or how. For example, let's say you wanted to ask, you're confused about what you wanted to do for work. You could ask, what's my soul's purpose on the planet? You could ask, what am I supposed to learn in this human incarnation? You could ask, what might be the best possible outcome for me to take a job with Acme Company, right? And when you ask that question, I recommend writing down 10 questions before you open up your records, because once you open your records, it's really hard. It's just really hard to sort of remember things and keep track of things because you're getting a lot of information that's coming in. So, yeah, you want to write it down ahead of time in my opinion, in order to recall later and remember kind of what the records recommended to. Ooh, someone really liked that. Cool. So you're going to write down 8 to 10 questions, and then you're going to open the records, and then you're going to ask each question. And you can ask them silently, or you can ask them with your eyes open or with an open mouth, whatever you want to do. And once you ask the question, you sit and you wait for an answer. And typically the answer will come in the way that you are most intuitive or clairvoyant. So we're all intuitive, right? We all have clairvoyant abilities. We did an awesome workshop on this with Imani Quinn. But there are 5 different types of clairvoyance: clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairaudience, I said, You guys, sorry. You might see things, you might hear things, you might get songs, you might just have a deep sense of knowing that you have the answer, and it might come through you that way. For me, I'm pretty clairaudient and pretty clairsentient, so I feel things. And so when I open my records, I'll hear, usually in my voice, Sarah just said, oh my God, it would be so fun if it was like a musical. Sometimes you hear songs. So this is the cool thing. Everyone's different and every experience is different, at least for me. So sometimes when I open my records, I'll hear things in my own voice, but like a deeper version of a more grounded version of my voice that come in directly, and they come fast. It's not like, it might be this, it might be that. It comes through, and that's how I kind of know that it's not coming from me. That the answer isn't coming from my own subconscious or my own ego. If I think that it is, because sometimes it is, right? We're all human. I'll just ask again and say, like, I'm trying to release anything around this. What is the answer that I'm looking for? Or I'll ask the question again, and then I'll get the answer. And sometimes you'll get a song, or you'll get a vision, and you'll be like, I don't even know what that means. And the best thing to do is just ask what it means. We always forget that, like, when we get signs and symbols and signals from the world around us, if we don't know what they are, we can just ask what they are and what they mean. This happens in real life too. If someone tells you something and you don't understand what they're telling you or the way that they're interacting with you, you can just ask them to clarify. It's so silly, but it's such a good lesson to remember. So if something comes through when you're asking the records a question and you're like, I have no idea what a bear dancing on like a tambourine means, you can just say, can you clarify this for me? I don't understand what that means. And your records will do that. I've noticed that at least my Akashic records are like kind of stern. So they don't have a lot of time or patience. Like they don't suffer fools, at least for me. So when I ask questions that have really obvious answers, they are pretty short with me, which is kind of great and hilarious because that works really well for me, and I usually listen to them. So I was asking at one point in my life about a boy, not the boy that I live with now and that I'm obsessed with and that I'm in love with, some other guy. And my records were like, honestly, you're wasting your time on this question. You know what the answer is. And they're pretty upfront and real. So it's kind of fun to open up the records and see what they're going to tell you. And I would say that, a lot of the work in opening up your Akashic records is crafting the questions that you're asking. And that's all deep introspective work that you can do. That's your own work. So when you're creating questions for the records, feel into why you're asking those questions and if you actually know the answer to them. Most of the time we do. And we're looking for some sort of outside signal to help us when we really know what's right for us. But on those times where you don't really know the answer, the records are a really great tool to use. So that's kind of like the long and short of the Akashic records. After you ask your questions, you will close the records. You always want to close the records. Leaving them open just basically means that it's kind of like abusing their power, right? We don't want to like dip into that power source for too long. We don't need it because we want to walk through the world using our own intuition and not being so reliant on external resources. And the cool thing about the Akashic records, although they aren't technically like a divination tool, is that you can often ask questions about the future or about something, next best steps, right? And the records always give you an answer based off of what the trajectory you're currently on is. So let's say you're asking about work and you don't like the answer that you're given. You have it within you to change that outcome. And that's really cool. So you can decide, you know what? I actually want this business to be super profitable. Let's say it's that. Or really fun. I actually want to love my business and make it be something that's really fun. You can look at the answer from the records. Maybe it says your business sucks and you're not going to have any fun and it's going to give you depression. You can be like, whoa, all right, what's the trajectory I'm on right now? I clearly need to change this. And then you can use the records to like create a new trajectory, right? I usually say, what's the best possible outcome of XYZ situation? And that will tell me, I can ask the best possible outcome and the worst possible outcome, and that'll tell me a range of opportunities or outcomes for whatever my problem might be. And I've just found the records to be really freeing because they remind me that at the end of the day, like, I'm choosing my own destiny. And they're a really good reminder that you're honestly, you always know the answer, or you have the answer available to you always if you choose to dig deeper and find it. And you're in control if you choose to be. You're in choice if you choose to be. And I think that that's really cool and really empowering. Okay, and then someone asked earlier about are the records real or not? And I love this question because I often, even after I became a certified reader, was like, are the records real or not? Or am I just making this shit up? And I've done enough readings for other people to know that I definitely am not making this stuff up, because when you read for someone else, you get information that you don't know anything about, and you're reading for them and it's correct. So you're tapping into some sort of intelligence, whether it's universal or your own deep subconscious intelligence or intuitive intelligence. And if it helps you, so if you're a skeptical person like me, or you love data, or you love science, and you need a logical explanation for the Akashic Records, I would think of it in a couple ways. So the Akashic Records could be viewed, just like intuition, as a deep, deep way to access our subconscious mind. And ideally in your subconscious mind, you've broken out of any sort of patterning or conditioning or shadow belief systems, because the shadows and blocks are where our subconscious lives. So you've done enough work to see where those shadows and blocks are so that your subconscious is really, truly tapped in. And when you open the Akashic Records, you're accessing your subconscious mind, which is like the truest, most authentic version of yourself. So really, you're going to your own well of answers. And when it comes to opening the Akashic Records for your past life, I think it's the same thing. Lots of people are like, and I've asked this myself, oh, if I'm talking about my past life, how do I know it's actually my past life, right? Like, oh, everyone says they could see themselves in ancient Egypt, but like maybe that's because everyone wants to live in ancient Egypt. How do I know that shit's real and I'm not just making it up? Great question. Also, no one cares. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Stay with me. So, okay. If your subconscious mind, Carl Jung is an analyst, right? He was a psychological analyst, and he does a lot of work on the subconscious. And Carl Jung believes that the subconscious mind cannot speak to the conscious mind. They don't speak the same language. They don't understand each other. So the subconscious uses imagery, for example, our dreams, in order to speak to the conscious mind, to tell us what we need to be aware of, what lessons we need to learn, and how we can integrate ourselves more deeply. So just like the subconscious uses dreams and imagery from dreams to talk to our conscious mind, maybe past life regression or past life imagery is our subconscious mind communicating to our conscious mind about a lesson that we need to learn or an idea that we need to grasp. So maybe in a past life vision or an Akashic, you open the Akashic Records and you get a past life pop up. You see that you lived on a farm alone, you were super happy, but when you died, there was only one person who was like next to your bedside. And you realize that, I can do things on my own and I'm totally powerful and I'm not codependent, but life is a lot more fun when I have people around me. Maybe that's the lesson that you need to learn, right? So if that's what you get from it, who cares if it's actually a vision of your past life or if it's an image that your subconscious mind is creating and pulling from in order to teach you what you need to know. And just a reminder that we see over 50,000 images a minute over our entire lives that we're taking into our brain. So if you close your eyes or you're in meditation and you pull up an image is created. It's, you're creating an image out of a lot of data. And there's a reason that you're creating that image. I personally believe that nothing is a coincidence. And you don't have to agree with that, but honestly, I think it's more fun to walk through life that way. Just thinking that, nothing's a coincidence. Everything has meaning. And that's really cool. So there's a reason that you're seeing what you're seeing. There's a reason that you're downloading what you're downloading. And with the Akashic Records in particular, there's usually a very specific language that you're supposed to use and understand. So I'll give you one more story, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I love to talk about this stuff. And then I'll leave you. So I asked the Akashic Records. This was when I was single, and I'm 30 and I live in LA. And I'd never really been single before. I've lived in New York, I've lived in LA, and I kind of always had a boyfriend, which was great. But I never really dated, and I was ready to really date and meet my person. So I asked the records, what should I do? What do I need to do in order to attract in my soulmate or my person? And they were like, wear flowers in your hair. And I was like, that is actually the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What could that possibly mean? And so I was like, why? You can ask why. And they said, because you are happier when you have flowers in your hair and flowers around you, and when you take time to look nice. My hair is one of my favorite features. And they said, you'll be much more, people are much more willing to come and talk to you when you're in that space. Plus, it's cute and you'll look cute. And so I started doing that, and I met my partner a few weeks later. I wasn't wearing flowers in my hair when we met, but I had this new sense of confidence from doing that I could embrace my own quirky style. I could wear what I wanted to wear. And as long as I was my most radiant version of myself, because I was fully embracing myself, then I was going to attract in the right person. And I thought that was so dumb at the time. I wanted to punch my master's teachers and loved ones, but it actually really worked. So I can't be that mad at them. So sometimes you'll get really stupid stuff or seemingly stupid answers where you're like, that makes no sense. I don't understand that. And sometimes you'll get really potent answers that holy moly, you never could have made on your own. Last thing, and then I will leave you, but I think the Akashic Records are also a really practical tool that you can use to optimize your life. So how did I learn how to read for people? Oh, good question. I got certified. I went to a very long training that took a couple days with Helen Vonderheid, and then did some more training after that. You don't have to be certified in the Akashic Records to read for other people. I would recommend it because it's a really powerful tool, and it's really important to be thoughtful if you're going to read for other people. But if you want to read for yourself, you can just use the pathway prayer and practice. And that's the thing with the records. You have to keep practicing with them. You got to open them and spend a little bit of time in them and really enjoy them. Okay. So last thing that I was going to talk about was using the Akashic Records to optimize your life. So they aren't just this mystic woo-woo thing, right? Where you have to ask about your life's purpose and your mission on the planet. You can actually use them to ask for really practical things like, what's the best diet for me right now? Or what's my optimal work schedule? We're all different, and we're constantly changing. We're ebbing and flowing. but I noticed that I was having a really hard time a couple months ago just getting the amount of work done that I needed to get done. So I opened up my Akashic Records and I asked, like, what would be my ideal work schedule in order to optimize my time and my energy? And my Akashic Records gave me a really detailed schedule, actually, of when I needed to work. And yes, we will save this. So my Akashic Records told me when I needed to work, when I needed to take breaks, and what I needed to do during those during those blocks of time that it gave me. And it was so helpful. And now you might be like, okay, but did that actually just come from your subconscious? Again, no one cares. It doesn't matter. As long as it's helpful and useful to you and it works, you should do it, right? If that means opening up your Akashic Records and asking the Akashic Records, awesome. If that means meditating and getting that answer in meditation, phenomenal. If that means doing soul writing, great, do it. Whatever you need to do, right? And at the end of this, all I'm trying to say is that we have a million tools out there at our disposal to be the best versions of ourselves. And if something works for you and it's not hurting anyone else and you enjoy it, then you should try it. And the worst thing that happens is that we try something and we decide that it's not for us. And then we don't have to use it. And that's what personal sovereignty is. And that's really freaking cool. So that's my spiel on the Akashic Records. If you're curious about them, I recommend opening them up yourself. You can. So just go to our Instagram bio. Yes, our Instagram bio, there's a link. And it says, click the link. And the very first thing that you're going to see is how to open the Akashic Records. It's a PDF. It has the pathway prayer, the opening prayer, and the closing prayer. And then it has 44 example questions that you can use to start working with the records. That'll give you some ideas of how to best kind of talk to them. And as you practice and get to know your records a little bit better and how you like to use them, you'll create your own sort of question dictionary. And yeah. I hope this was helpful to you, and if you have any questions, you can shoot me a DM. I'm Michelle. I'm the founder of Holisticism, and I love doing this. And so if you have anything for me that you want to know more about, I would love to talk to you. Shoot me a DM or send me an email at michelle@oholisticism.com. And I hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.